Welcome to InnerGLOW, the podcast that helps you to ditch anxiety, judgment, stress, and self-doubt, and instead embody ease, confidence, flow, abundance, and self-love. I'm your host, Bhavna Meg, mindset and energy coach, and founder of Stepping Into You. I work with individuals just like you on emotional, mental, and energetic levels to help you to fall in love with yourself and glow from the inside out. This is episode 14. Today we talk about fear and love. These two primary emotions are a little like primary colors in that, to varying degrees, they are the base of all other emotions. When we can engage with so-called negative emotions with the conversation of fear, we can really start to release and clear some shit out of our body and our system and create space for some deep healing and expansion. Listen all the way to the end to learn a tip on how to use fear and love to really create some deep healing and expansion. I've introduced dualities in a previous episode, and that's exactly what fear and love really are in their base forms. We have this plethora of emotions that we articulate or describe, but at the core of all of those emotions is fear or love. And it's when we can come into a state of oneness, of balance, where we can really allow ourselves to not be in the intensity of either of those emotions, but to feel them and let them pass through. The map of consciousness developed by Dr. David Hawkins illustrates many different emotions and the frequencies that are attached to them. The map of consciousness puts these emotions on a growing scale, starting at a low number all the way up to 1,000. But when placing these on a horizontal spectrum and looking at them as a duality, we can see that one cannot exist without the other. Therefore, if we can experience the emotional state of humiliation, the very opposite, which in this case would be ineffable or bliss, is also possible. Experiencing the scale as a duality really opens up the possibilities of our ability to move through those emotions that are rooted in fear. I want to take you through some examples so that this is not just feeling theoretical or a bit airy-fairy for you. So let's look at some emotions that are fear-based at their very core. Emotions such as worry, anger, and sadness. Let's start with worry. Worry is a future-based emotion. We worry about things that haven't yet happened and may not even happen. So we're running through scenarios in our heads of what if this, what if that, what if this, what if they don't, what if I don't, and so on and so forth. What's about worry is fear-based. Let's put it into the context of worrying about your health, worrying whether you're ever going to be healthy, ever going to be the weight that you desire to be, worrying whether you're ever going to be as muscly or as toned or as fit as you would like to be. When we put this into the context of fear, what is it that you're really afraid of? You're afraid of being unhealthy and dying. You're afraid of potentially being alone because you won't attract the right partner. You're afraid of being humiliated if you're going to do a fitness competition and you're going to fail. Now let's try that with anger. We'll tone it down a little bit to frustration. Maybe you're frustrated with your partner for always filling up the dishwasher and never actually turning it on. Perhaps you're frustrated with them because they don't message you as often as you want them to. When we look at the dishwasher example, that's something that might be important to you. And if your partner is not doing something that's important to you, maybe that is then a reflection that they feel that you are not important to them. And this is a fear of not being loved, not being valued. Then being frustrated because your partner is not messaging you as often as you want them to. And again, it comes back to this fear of not being loved. because we are not receiving from them what it is that we feel that we need to demonstrate to us from somebody else that we are loved. So in this case, in both of these examples, it's the fear of not being loved. And now let's look at the emotion of sadness. Sadness can be around many different things, of course, as can the emotions that we've spoken about with worry and anger. So we'll pick something a little bit more specific. So sadness in the case of disappointment, and that disappointment is perhaps not getting a promotion that you have been wanting to get. Let's apply the lens of fear to that, and we can start to see that this again comes back to the fear of not being valued, fear of not being appreciated, fear of not being worthy. I guess the question now is really, well, so what? So what that we've got this anger, we've got this sadness, we've got this worry, and it's being created and stemming from fear. What do we do about it? Two of the biggest fears that can be feeding these emotional states are the fear of death and the fear of loneliness. And these are huge, huge, huge fears. And when we start to work on these things, we can start to release the emotional attachments to things like worry, sadness, anger, frustration, and so on. Let's use the fear of death as a working example. Now, a lot of people have the fear of death, and this can stem from this understanding that once we die, we will no longer exist, and there's a loss of self. So it's not so much the death bit that it scares us, is that we will no longer be alive. When we start to explore what it means to be afraid of not being alive, in conversations that I've had with friends and clients, it often comes from this feeling and this sense that we haven't done everything that we wanted to do in life and we can't die now. This is something that's actually been very much embedded within our culture in the Western world. We work for 40, 50, 60 years, and when we retire, that's when we're allowed to start living. It's retirement that we're striving for so that we can do all of the things that we want to do. And as a result, we're not doing the things that we want to do now as we're doing the prescribed work period of our life. And this continues to embed this sense of fear that I haven't done all the things that I want to do in my life. I haven't accomplished everything that I want to accomplish. I can't possibly die yet. I need more time. Before we continue with the next part of the show, if what I've shared with you today is resonating with you, leave a review. It goes a long way to help share the love with others who are going through the same things and would benefit from the tips and tools to turn on their inner glow. Another way to share the love is by making a donation at patreon.com/steppingintoyou to share your love with me and with others. I've been very fortunate to have grown up in a culture where death is a very natural and accepted part of the cycle of life. We either ascend or we reincarnate. And certainly through my own spiritual practice, I'm very connected to my soul, my spirit, the energy that is my essence, that is connected to everything and continues to exist beyond my physical body. As a result, I've been able to let go of, well, initially be very much in harmony with the fear of death or non-existence through my upbringing, but really be able to embed that in my being as an adult and let go of the fear around death in all aspects of life, appreciating that if it is my time to go, it is my time to go. That's not to say that I have no control over what is happening in my life. That is rather to say that that is my soul's choosing, that is my heart's choosing, that this was the time that I was meant to pass. Now, with that comes huge amounts of liberation of energy that can be expended on living life, which is the thing that we're so afraid of, that we haven't lived, truly lived, experienced life. We're so afraid of the end of that because we haven't done the experience of it. Being in alignment with the process of and the cycle of life, it's allowed me to experience my life in lots of wonderful ways. I've experienced many different adrenaline sports. I've traveled around the world and continuing to do things that allow me to play in life and be incredibly present because I'm not worrying about when it's going to end. With fear being at the core of these emotions that we call negative, how can we use love, which is its duality, to start to balance what we are experiencing in those emotions? First, by identifying what the instead looks like. So instead of worry, how do I want to feel? What's the emotion I want to experience? Instead of anger, what is the emotion I want to experience? Instead of sadness, what is the emotion that I want to experience? Here we create for ourselves, for our internal being, our own little duality, but a place for us to move our energy bodies and our whole being towards. This step is so important. We're so well versed and learned in how to say what we do not want. I'm often asking my clients, what do you want instead of X, Y, and Z? And often they will reply, I don't want X, Y, and Z. And that's not framing what it is that you desire. That's not framing where you want your energy to move to. It's only telling your body what it's currently experiencing. I don't want this, but your subconscious mind doesn't register that it doesn't want. It simply recognizes and registers the thing that it is, the X, Y, and Z, and gives you more of that. So this step is super important, that you use positively framed words and language to define what state you desire instead of the one that you're experiencing at the moment, that is fear-based. Instead of worry, a love-based emotion might be calm or peaceful or confident or even present. Instead of anger or frustration, it may also be calm and peaceful. It may also be neutral. It may also be loving or happy. Instead of sad, the emotion might be happiness, might be joy, might be vibrant and full of life. So to really play out this particular exercise, first start by asking yourself, with some of those negative emotions, what is the fear that is underlying this particular emotional state that I'm experiencing? And then ask yourself, what do I want instead? When you start to play those two together, it really starts to open up the possibilities of being able to experience another emotional state instead of the one that you're in right now. As always, awareness is so paramount to creating change and growth. So if nothing else, we've raised our awareness as to where these emotions are coming from and what's creating them, so we can start to let them go. That's all for today. Join me next week for episode 15, where I'll be talking about creating health and wholeness. Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to subscribe at steppingintoyou.com/InnerGLOW so you don't miss any glowing possibilities. And if you'd love to support InnerGLOW, you can make a donation at patreon.com/InnerGLOW. Sending you love, hugs, and magic.